talking about love letters again.
Yeah.
It felt like a relevant topic. There seems to be like some political dynamics behind it, which is interesting. Freedom of speech, which
Right.
is such a common topic these days. It's, forgive my French, but sometimes it's just freedom to discriminate, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that's what, this law went into effect in Oregon. It basically said you can't write love letters. They're now banned because it discriminates. And, they could use that argument about anything. Absolutely. You're saying, hey, I like this person more or less because of the letter they wrote.
Yeah.
I mean, that's life, everyday life. And if you can gain the upper hand by doing that, Oregon said you can't. And now a judge is saying, well, what's wrong with that? And I agree you should be able to, try to have someone like you more than someone else. They could choose to read that letter or not.
Sure.
That's up to them. But you are taking that option away from them by saying you simply can't write it. But I don't like it being under this component of eliminating someone's freedoms, which you hear too much these days.
Gee, Darren, you sound a little libertarian there. But
no. I think it's the libertarian that says you're removing freedoms.
Okay. Don't get mad at me, man. I'm just your partner. Shit.
Yeah.
So look, as we read this, I think there's a number of different ways to talk about it. So we'll certainly talk about it and how we treat it here. There's the Oregon viewpoint. And as you said, Darren, I think it really is about what does a seller want to do. And if you lay it all out, they should make their choice, and that's it.
Sure.
But it is about, I'm sorry, just one more thing. It is about, right, what comes first. And that's kind of the story here. What comes first, free speech or, right, discriminating?
Right. I think they're going to win. They're going to allow them to be put back in.
Oh, you think, huh?
I do. What I can say here in California real estate, in the listing agreement, you can check a box that says, I don't want to receive any letters from potential buyers.
Uh-huh.
So that's deflect one that a seller can do if they don't want to receive those letters, if they don't want a letter to allow them to be influenced, or in reality, the letter can be sent and they can just not read it. They don't want to. There's nothing that requires they read it.
Right. Okay. Well, here, let's go ahead and get into it. This is from, again, our friends at Inman.com. It is an industry source for real estate agents and brokers. Let's see. It says regulations. Judge orders Oregon deposits homebuyer love letter ban. A U.S. district judge agreed these letters can lead to discrimination, but said the state law goes too far in restricting free speech. All right. Sellers agents in Oregon may resume passing so-called love letters from homebuyers to their clients, at least for now, as a legal challenge to the law continues to work its way through the courts. U.S. District Judge Marco A. Hernandez on Thursday granted a preliminary injunction against Oregon's first-of-its-kind ban on love letters, ordering a temporary halt to enforcement of the law. Lawmakers behind the policy argued these letters opened the door for illegal housing discrimination by sellers. In the court order, Hernandez wrote that the group suing the state was likely to succeed on the merits of its claim that the Oregon law violates the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. There you go. It is not in the public interest to enforce a law that is likely unconstitutional, even one aimed at the laudable goal of reducing unlawful discrimination in housing, Hernandez wrote in the opinion. The law went into effect in January. The injunction marks the next stage of the lawsuit filed in November by Oregon-based Total Real Estate Group. The brokerage's attorney, Daniel Ortner of Pacific Legal Foundation, said the decision marks a victory for free speech. Today's ruling preserves the opportunity of homebuyers to speak freely to sellers and make the case why their purchase offers should win out, Ortner said in a statement. Love letters communicate information that helps sellers select the best offer. The state cannot ban important speech because someone might misuse it. Hold on there. A spokesperson for the Oregon Real Estate Agency confirmed to Inman that the state will not enforce the law unless a further court order allows the law to go into effect. The Oregon Attorney General's office declined to comment on the case. In previous conversations with Inman, agents in Oregon had a range of experiences with love letters. Some said they saw how the information in the letters could empower sellers to act on biases. Others said the strength of the offer was usually what won the day, not the personal appeals from the buyer. The judge ordered the suspension of the law's enforcement despite concurring with the state of Oregon's argument that these letters can contribute to discrimination. While the state could not identify specific examples of a seller discriminating based on the information in a love letter, Hernandez said there was significant circumstantial evidence supporting the idea. Accordingly, Oregon legislators drew a reasonable inference that prohibiting the transmission of love letters through sellers' agents will reduce unlawful discrimination in home ownership, Hernandez wrote. Still, the specter of discrimination was not enough to tip the scales in favor of the state law. Hernandez said the law could have been tailored more narrowly to achieve its objective, without affecting the protected forms of speech in these letters, as it means the government chose an approach that has the effect of significantly limiting truthful, non-misleading speech, Hernandez said. In a news release Friday, the libertarian legal group representing the Total Real Estate Group said the law harmed the brokerage's ability to find the right homes for its clients. The letters often prompt sales below the top monetary offer, creating opportunities for first-time homeowners and giving sellers peace of mind that their home ends up in caring hands, Pacific Legal Group said in the release. The preliminary injunction ensures the law will remain unenforced as the law winds its way through the courts. The law's ultimate fate has yet to be decided. So there you go.
So, like in that explanation of it all, what bothers me there is, the statement that it prevented the realtors from successfully. That's where it just tips the scales and pisses me off. Because that's bullshit. Is there some discrimination? I think there is. And I think it exists. And we just naturally gravitate towards, look, a picture might have an influence. We had a transaction that we're in escrow and now, and it was like, oh, as they walked through the property, they saw the school that the owner went to. And I'm going to point out I went to the same school. Another one was like, oh, I see that there's a certain profession in this house and I'm associated with that profession. So you're trying to find a thread to connect, and that's what these letters do. Because in most cases, you're not meeting the potential buyer. And in many cases, I would not, maybe it's a 50-50. There's some element of it mattering to a seller who the house goes to.
Well, I was going to say it's about, again, when do you use these letters? And I know we're going to get into that, but it's not out of the gate necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, talk about what we suggest there, Joe, because it's been a consistent response to us about the impact of the letters and where and when to use them.
So during the first offer phase, we hold the letters. When we do narrow it down to a couple of the best ones, if it's tight, if it's right, everybody's basically looking the same, those letters might make a difference, And we do have them look at them. There might be something, as you said, Darren, that echoes in their hearts or gives them a feeling of good about giving their home to the next owner.
Sure. And I think and you're right. So the letters make a difference when two offers are very close. They don't make a difference when there's a big gap.
No, not at all.
And usually that gap, the closeness is narrowed down in phase 2 in the counter phase, which is why we'll do what a buyer wants, but we typically suggest you don't send them right off the bat because I don't think they really get read off the bat. If they're ever going to get read, it's like these two are close. Now let me look at the letter. And then we also talk about what you're trying to communicate in the letter. Yes, you're trying to find a thread of connection that will make them like you as a human being, make them feel good, create another emotional response. But you're also, without overselling it, just trying to show your commitment to the house and the community. And that's where it really matters to me in trying to convey that you will complete this purchase. You have the means to do it. You have the desire to do it. you're not going to play games when you get into escrow.
Yep.
That's what I always want to see in a letter, and a letter that conveys those components.
Right.
Could make a difference if they choose to read it.
Yeah.
If they're in that 50% category that it matters to.
Well, look, it has certainly worked for us at times, and I know it's worked for other real estate agents and buyers with that last sort of Hail Mary pass. I mean, it's the flip side of it, but certainly sellers, clients will ask agents, well, what did you think of this person? Did you meet this person? How did it's not a letter, but it's a similar thing. What is your impression of this person as a buyer and as the owner of your home, possibly?
And you bring up another component, Joe, that's very important there, that being an industry insider, you have to understand. So we talk about maybe 50% of buyers or 50% of sellers it even matters to.
Right.
The additional component you bring up is that an agent filters the information that's delivered to their client. We don't have direct communication with their client.
Yeah.
And that's the way the agency relationships are set up. So if it doesn't matter to the agent, it's going to have even less emphasis or won't be read by the time it gets to the seller. Because if they don't put emphasis on reading it, if they don't think that's important, then it won't get done. So
right.
I was to throw a number out there.
Yeah.
Maybe 10%. And it's worth doing it.
Yeah.
If 10% of the time it could have an impact. But I would say collectively, for the various reasons we've discussed, 90% of the time, it does not have an impact.
True. I was going to say too, he talked about this could have been handled differently. So what is it going to become? This is how you write your letter, or here is the form. You can only say this line by line.
Right. They're going to say you can't send a photo, so you'll discriminate on race, color. You can't talk about sexual orientation. What are you going to say? You can't talk about a job affiliation or an organization. No. Where does it end? Right. Where does it end? Right.
All right. Well, you obviously know where we side on this. God, have we killed that one? I think we got most of it.
The only other thing I'll say in writing the letter, I think when a buyer takes the time to compose a letter, it like pulls together all of their emotional state, their position, and their commitment to the purchase. And it could change their perspective. It could change their offer that they write just by really trying to get them very honed in that moment.
Focusing in. Exactly.
So I think it's worth writing, whether it impacts the other side or not, because it helps them get honed in.
Right. But you're right. It really coalesces their sense of value and what it means to them. Whether it gets to the other side or not. That's a really good point. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. To be continued.